Have you ever felt underestimated? Not just by others, but by yourself. Like there's a version of you buried under fear, exhaustion, and silence, watching life happen to other people while you keep repeating the same routine. You understand English, you even study it, but when it's time to speak, your voice disappears, and you wonder, is this who I'm going to be forever? Quiet, overlooked, left behind. This video is not about tips and tricks. It's about a man who made one decision that changed everything, not because he was special, not because he was fluent, but because he refused to stay small. And as you listen, you'll do more than just learn English. You'll begin to remember who you are and who you were always meant to become. Because this isn't a lesson, it's a mirror. And by the end of this story, you'll stop asking, can I speak? You'll start asking, what am I still afraid of? So take a breath and press play on the next version of you. He stood in the empty hallway with a mop in his hand, the sound of his own breathing louder than anything else. The offices were silent, but their walls whispered. Degrees on the wall, glass desks, confident voices that lived here during the day. He didn't hate them. He admired them. But deep down, a quiet question burned inside him. Why not me? While he cleaned, he imagined himself giving presentations, not wiping the floor after them. That night, he whispered in English, I deserve more. And he meant it. The shame didn't come from the work. It came from the silence. He understood English, yes. But when someone spoke to him, his voice would vanish. His mind would fill with grammar rules and fear. So he nodded, smiled, and disappeared back into the shadows. People thought he didn't know. But the truth was, he knew too much and felt too little confidence. That night, he promised himself, I will say one sentence a day, even if my voice shakes. His first sentence, I want to improve. One evening, while wiping a whiteboard, a manager looked him in the eye and said, thank you. Just 2 words. Simple, warm, human. But in that moment, the fear hit him like a wave because he couldn't reply. Not in words. His throat closed. His brain screamed, say something, but his tongue refused to move. That silence followed him home like a ghost, and that night he wrote on paper in English, silence is no longer my choice. He sat alone in his small room, a single light, a cracked mirror, but something shifted. He looked at his own reflection and didn't see a cleaner. He saw a man who had stayed quiet for too long. That night, he made a new kind of promise. English will not be the reason I stay small. No more hiding behind I'm tired or maybe next year. He opened a free English video on YouTube, pressed play, pressed pause, read out loud for 5 minutes. That was day 1. In those 5 minutes, something happened. His mouth felt unfamiliar, stiff, awkward, foreign. But he also felt alive, like a man waking up after a long sleep. He didn't understand every word, but he spoke every sentence slowly, with care. I clean offices at night. I am learning English. I have a dream. He wrote them down, circled them, repeated them. His grammar wasn't perfect, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was rebirth. He began to carry a small notebook with him, next to the mop, hidden in his back pocket. Whenever a thought came, he'd try to write it in English, tired but hopeful. Still here, learning. Words that felt like seeds. He didn't show the notebook to anyone, but every page became proof that he wasn't invisible, just preparing. That's the thing people don't see. Growth doesn't shout, it whispers. One night he dared to speak. A woman asked him in English, "Where's the bathroom?" And instead of pointing silently, he said, "Down the hall, first left." Simple, imperfect, but real. She smiled and said, "Thank you." This time he smiled back and whispered to himself, "That was me. That was me." That small sentence felt bigger than any lesson in school, because it came from courage, not from a textbook. The next morning, before leaving work, he stood by the window, looking out at the city. He still had the mop, but he also had a mission. A quiet fire burned inside. He no longer saw himself as just a cleaner. He was becoming someone else, someone who had been underestimated, even by himself, but not anymore, because if you want to stay stuck forever, well, there's a specific way to do that too. If you want zero progress, keep saying, "My English is bad." Say it like a prayer. Say it so many times that even your potential starts believing it. Then, never practice. Just watch others speak while you hide in silence. That's the perfect recipe to stay invisible. But here's the thing, people don't learn English by being perfect. They learn by being in motion. So today, change your phrase. Say, "I'm improving daily," and let that be your new story. If you want permanent regret, keep waiting. Wait until your English sounds perfect in your mind before you ever open your mouth. Wait for the magical day when you feel ready. That day will never come. You will get older, and your silence will get heavier. Perfection is a liar that keeps you quiet. So instead, speak now. One imperfect sentence is more powerful than 1,000 perfect ones trapped in your head. Say it. Let it be messy. Let it be real. If you want to stay overlooked, never share your thoughts. Keep your ideas locked away just because you're afraid of grammar mistakes. Let fear wrap around your intelligence like a thick fog. That way people will never see who you really are. But if you want to change that, say one thing today, in English, small, honest. I think that's a good idea. Or I have a suggestion. You don't need big words, you just need brave ones. If you want every opportunity to pass you by, treat English like a boring school subject. Memorize rules, memorize lists. But never use the language to live. Never connect it to your actual goals. That's how you stay stuck in a classroom mindset. But if you want to grow, treat English like a ladder. Something that gets you closer to the life you want. This week, use it in one real conversation. A store, a text, a short email. Make it real. Make it yours. If you want to keep your life small, stay inside your comfort zone. Speak only in your native language. Think only in your native habits. Keep the English words buried in your mind, afraid to come out, but you'll feel it eventually, that quiet pain that says, "I was meant for more." Step into discomfort. That's where transformation lives. Start with something tiny. Record your voice today. Just 30 seconds. No one needs to hear it, but you will. If you want to be forgotten, never practice discipline. Let motivation control your progress. Only study when you feel like it. That way, English will always feel like a stranger. But if you want to become unforgettable, create a ritual, 5 minutes a day, shadow a video, journal a few lines, reread a favorite story. When you show up daily, English stops being a goal and starts becoming your identity. If you want to keep doubting yourself, surround yourself with silence. Don't ask questions. Don't get feedback. Don't tell anyone you're learning. Hide the process. Hide the progress. That way, nobody sees your growth, not even you. But what if, just once, you shared your journey, said, "I'm learning English," told a friend, wrote it online? Let the world witness your courage. Sometimes, visibility is the first step to victory. If you want your future to look exactly like your past, keep ignoring the small decisions. Say it's just one day when you skip practice. Say, "I'll do it later" every time you feel resistance. But later becomes never, and one day becomes 5 years. The only way out is through repetition, through mistakes, through uncomfortable, ordinary effort. That's how you rise. That's how the cleaner becomes the manager. And no one sees it coming. Nobody noticed him. He moved through the office like a shadow, quiet, invisible, almost part of the furniture. But while others talked loudly about their weekend, their projects, their big dreams, he listened. Every conversation was a lesson. Every mistake they made, he remembered. Not because he was nosy, but because he knew. One day, those conversations wouldn't feel so far away. While the others scrolled during their breaks, he did something strange. He pulled a small book from his backpack, a graded reader, simple English. The sentences were slow, the vocabulary was basic. But it wasn't about speed, it was about training his eyes, his mouth, his memory, one page at a time, like lifting small weights before carrying something heavy. That book became his gym. He started doing something even stranger. During his shift, when the office was silent, he'd watch YouTube videos in English with headphones. Not just watching, he was copying, repeating, shadowing. "Good evening, sir. Let me check that for you. I'll send you the report." These weren't just sentences, they were seeds. Each night, he planted more. Slowly, they started growing. At first, nobody noticed. But one night, a new supervisor walked in. She was looking for a bilingual team lead for a new department. She asked, "Does anyone here speak English?" Everyone turned away, except him. He stepped forward. His voice shook, but he said, "I can help." Not perfectly, not fluently, but clearly. And that one sentence changed everything. It was his chance. And he took it. He didn't become a manager overnight, no one does. But after that day, he wasn't invisible anymore. He started joining small meetings as a translator, then taking notes, then giving ideas. At first, they looked surprised, then impressed. His voice was no longer on the ground. It was in the room, and people were listening. The most powerful part, he still cleaned, still showed up early, still stayed humble. But now, he walked differently. Not faster, not louder, just taller. Because confidence isn't about noise, it's about self-respect. And when people saw how he carried himself, they treated him differently. Not because he demanded it, but because he became it. His colleagues started asking questions. "How did you learn English? What videos did you use? How did you find time?" And he always smiled and gave the same answer. "I didn't find time, I made it." Because real change never fits inside your schedule. It breaks your schedule and makes a new one. And still, late at night, when the office was quiet again, he would sit down with another English video, another reader, another sentence to shadow. Because even when you become the manager, the learning doesn't stop. And the voice that once stayed on the ground now helps lift others. He thought he was stupid, slow, not made for English, but he wasn't any of those things. His brain wasn't broken, it was tired, worn out from years of survival mode. Long shifts, noise, deadlines, pressure. When your body is just trying to survive, your brain can't focus on growth, and yet we blame ourselves. Instead of the burnout that's silently shaping our identity, it's called the immigrant nervous system. The constant alertness, the fear of failure, the pressure to provide, all of it puts the brain in a defensive state, high cortisol, low memory. Not because you lack intelligence, but because your brain is too tired to process language as something safe. That's why learning felt hard, not because it was hard, but because he had no space to receive it. And then there's the shame memory loop. Every time he tried to speak and failed, his brain registered it as danger. That memory became a prediction. Last time you spoke, you froze. Last time, they laughed. Better stay quiet. So next time, his body reacted before the words even came. Frozen tongue, racing heart. It wasn't English that failed. It was the brain trying to protect him from pain. But the most dangerous part was identity. He didn't just say, "I'm tired." He started saying, "I'm not smart enough. I'm just a cleaner. I can't learn like others." His role became his identity. But roles change. Identity is deeper, and the shift began the moment he looked in the mirror and whispered, "I am capable. I am growing. I am ready." That wasn't grammar practice. That was identity recovery. Science calls it neuroplasticity, the ability to rewire the brain through experience. Every time he read aloud, every time he dared to speak, every time he stayed calm instead of panicking, his brain rewrote its code. It said, "This is safe now. We don't need to hide anymore." Slowly, the fear melted. Not because he was fearless, but because he kept showing up. To create that shift, he created rituals. Before practice, he would close his eyes and breathe. Just 30 seconds. Inhale, exhale. This wasn't spiritual. It was neurological. It told his brain, "We're not in danger. This is not the interview that broke you. This is just learning." And that simple reset allowed his brain to absorb, not defend. Speak, not freeze. He started replacing fear with action. a painful memory with a new attempt. Every time he remembered the interview he failed, he did one new thing, repeated a phrase, recorded a sentence, stood tall and said, "I'm still here." That's what healing sounds like. Not loud victories, but quiet, repetitive bravery. And that's when the real fluency began, not just in English, but in his emotions, in his identity, in his self-talk. Because fluency isn't just about language. It's about the nervous system saying, "I'm safe to be seen." And when that shift happens, everything you thought was impossible suddenly becomes the new normal. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. He used to introduce himself like this: "I'm just a cleaner." 4 words, heavy like chains. It wasn't just a job, it became his whole identity. Every time someone asked what he did, his shoulders dropped, as if he had to apologize for surviving. But one day, something shifted. He looked at the floor he was cleaning and thought, "This is what I do, not who I am." And in English he whispered, "My title is not my limit." Desire was dangerous. Wanting more felt selfish, even greedy. Where he came from, dreaming out loud sounded like disrespect, but deep down he knew if he didn't want more, nothing would change. He'd stay stuck in the cycle of quiet work and quiet pain. So he wrote one sentence in his notebook: "I want to lead." It was small, it was private, but it was honest. And that was the beginning of rebirth. Growth doesn't knock on your door with an invitation. It shows up when no one's watching. It shows up when you choose to prepare without promise. He began practicing one English sentence a day about his future role. "I'm responsible for this team. I can solve that problem." He wasn't a manager yet, but he was training for it. In secret, in silence, in faith. One morning, something unusual happened. He woke up and didn't feel like surviving. He felt like standing, like stepping into a bigger version of himself. No applause, no promotion yet. But the mirror reflected a different man. He spoke softly. "I am becoming someone I never thought I could be." He wrote down 2 lines in English. "I lead with clarity. I speak with courage." That was his new beginning. He stopped hiding from possibility and started choosing it. Not with big dramatic moves, but with daily decisions. He said yes to a difficult sentence. He said no to another day of self-doubt. He said maybe to a dream that once felt ridiculous, because freedom isn't always a loud revolution. Sometimes it's a quiet declaration. "I will not stay here." People around him still saw the cleaner, but his inner world had changed. And when your inner story changes, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, people respond. A co-worker asked for his help. A supervisor gave him more responsibility, not because he asked, but because he had become the kind of person who was ready. That's the secret no one tells you. Your life doesn't change when someone gives you permission. It changes the moment you believe you can become more. And belief is built. Sentence by sentence, page by page. It's not magic, it's architecture. Your English practice, it's not just vocabulary, it's identity construction. And as he stood one evening, finishing his shift, he looked at the same building he used to walk into with his head down. But this time, his posture was different. Not because he had a new job yet, but because he had a new story, and he wasn't going back. While the world slept, his mind finally had space to breathe. The night shift was quiet. Fewer voices, fewer distractions. No teachers, no classmates. Just silence and strategy. That's when he discovered something strange. English felt easier at 2 a.m. Why? Because his brain was calm, not being judged, not being rushed. The low-stress window opened, and he walked through it. He wasn't trying to be a genius. He was just repeating the same English phrases he heard at work. "I'll email you tomorrow." "Let's reschedule the meeting." "Send the invoice." He heard them so often, they started sticking. Not because he memorized them, but because his brain was reinforcing patterns through repetition. Fluency wasn't being forced. It was being absorbed. Every day, the same phrases, the same voices, the same structure. His brain, like a sponge, soaked them in. At first, he didn't even notice, but then one day someone said, "Thanks for your help," and without thinking, he replied, "Any time." That was the moment. Automatic English, not studied, lived. He had a secret weapon, graded readers. While others took breaks to scroll, he read, slowly, out loud, like a child learning to speak for the first time. The stories were simple, but they carried weight, because stories create emotion, and emotion locks memory into place. He wasn't just learning words. He was building a world where those words had meaning. School had failed him, but the night shift, it became his university. No pressure, no performance, just practice. 10 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of shadowing, a short recording of himself repeating a sentence 3 times. That's it. That was his curriculum. Small rituals, big rewiring, and over time they changed his brain. Scientists call it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire through repetition. But he didn't need the science to prove it. He could feel it. Every time he practiced for 10 minutes, the next day felt easier. His tongue moved faster. His brain reached for words without panic. His fear shrank. His fluency grew. He made it a rule. 10 minutes a day, no matter what, even when tired, even when lazy. No excuses. And slowly, that habit became identity. He was no longer someone trying to learn English. He was someone who practiced English daily. That difference changed everything. And that's the strange truth most learners miss. You don't need more information. You need repetition with presence. You need to hear it again, say it again, feel it again. And one day you'll realize fluency isn't a mountain you climb. It's a staircase you build, step by step, word by word, night by night. At first, nobody noticed the change. It wasn't dramatic. He didn't shout louder or walk into meetings like a movie scene. But if you looked closely, something was different. He stood straighter, he walked slower, more grounded. His eyes met yours, his back didn't bend. That's what happens when you stop apologizing for your existence. Your body speaks confidence before your mouth even tries. He began speaking English in short bursts, not to impress, to connect. "I'll take care of it. Let me explain. I understand." The words weren't complex, but the energy behind them had changed. Before, he spoke like he was asking for permission. Now he spoke like he belonged, not better than others. Just equal, present, real. The most powerful shift? He stopped waiting to feel ready. He started responding, even when the grammar wasn't perfect. When someone asked him a question, he didn't overthink. He didn't rehearse in fear. He just answered. And suddenly, people began listening, not because he spoke flawless English, but because he spoke with self-respect. His co-workers noticed first, "Hey, your English is really improving. Wow, you explain things better than our team lead." He'd smile politely, but inside something much deeper was happening. For the first time, he noticed himself too. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was visible, not loud, but seen. A funny thing happens when you believe yourself. Others start believing you too. One sentence turned into two. Two turned into leading a conversation. Then a small meeting. Then helping train a new hire. English wasn't just a language now. It was a doorway. And he'd finally stepped through. The more he used his voice, the more doors opened. Not because of luck, because of visibility. He offered to translate. He helped fix communication mistakes. He suggested better ways to organize schedules. He wasn't asking for attention, but attention came because people don't follow perfect English. They follow clarity. They follow calm. Every bold sentence he spoke became a brick, not just in his language, but in his identity. "Can I help with that? Let me take the lead here. I have an idea." These weren't random phrases. They were his new rhythm, his new muscle, and with each repetition, the foundation of a new life took shape. He didn't shout, he didn't brag, he didn't demand a title. He simply showed up again and again, with his voice no longer on the ground. And in doing so, he created something rare: leadership without a name tag, respect without a request, presence without apology. And that was just the beginning. Why did I stay quiet for so long? That's what he asked himself one morning, standing in the exact hallway he used to clean. He wasn't angry at the past, just curious. Why had he believed his voice didn't matter? The answer came slowly: because silence felt safer than disappointment. If I don't speak, I won't fail. If I don't try, I won't be judged. But that mindset didn't protect him. It caged him. And now he had outgrown the cage. What changed me? Not one miracle, not one course, just one decision repeated every night. To open his mouth, to make mistakes, to speak again even after freezing. One small step, over and over until fear became familiar and then irrelevant. He remembered those nights on the night shift, shadowing one sentence: I'm learning. I'll take care of it. Can you help me with this? Repetition rewrote his identity. Who am I now? He looked in the mirror and smiled softly. He wasn't the cleaner who got lucky. He was the leader who trained when no one saw. He was the man who once stayed silent in fear and now speaks to lead. He still cleans sometimes. He still makes grammar mistakes. But now he owns his space. His strength doesn't come from a title. It comes from the effort behind it. He says it out loud now: I rise through effort, not perfection. What happens next? His story becomes someone else's blueprint. That's the truth he feels in his bones. He didn't go from cleaner to manager because his English was perfect. He went because he stopped playing small, because he saw value in himself before anyone else did, because he realized that staying silent to avoid failure was actually choosing failure with a smile. He now records messages to his younger self in English. Hey, I know you're scared, but speak anyway. The first sentence is the scariest. Say it. You don't need approval, just repetition. These aren't affirmations. They're instructions. He tells others, record your manager version. Even if no one listens, it'll wake you up. He mentors others now, not with big speeches, but with simple acts. He listens when others hesitate. He nods when they stutter. And he tells them what no one told him. You're allowed to learn out loud, because silence never helped him grow. Only action did, only presence did, and the final truth. His transformation was never about English alone. It was about reclaiming his voice, his choices, his future. English was the tool, but courage was the driver. He didn't climb a ladder, he built it, word by word, page by page, night by night. Now, when someone underestimates him, he smiles, not in defense, but in memory, because they're seeing the cleaner. But he remembers the manager who was always hidden inside, waiting, training, rising. Now I ask you, what's the real reason you've been hiding your voice? Is it fear of judgment, shame from a past mistake, or the quiet belief that maybe you're just not good enough? Because here's the truth. The man in this story didn't succeed because of perfect grammar. He succeeded because he showed up every night, tired, afraid, and imperfect, and spoke anyway. So what about you? Will you keep waiting for confidence to arrive before you speak? Or will you realize confidence is built by speaking, not before it? Start with one sentence. Say it out loud today. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm not staying small anymore. And if this story touched something inside you, if it reminded you of who you could become, then keep walking this path with us. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment about the part that woke you up, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next transformation. Because this isn't just about learning English, this is about rebuilding your future, one brave word at a time.